The Warhammer topic of the week is Hobby Journey. This is again through Vince Venturella, and I'll post his video down below. So the topic is about where we've come in the hobby, from the painting and modeling side, I guess. And interestingly enough, the few other videos that I watched of responses have all been, I think most of us started gaming in about the late 90s. And so we have some shared experiences with how things got painted. At that early period, painting was a completely different skill set at the time. And my first army I ever painted was Black Templar, and I quickly kind of did that overnight for the most part before tournament, and absolutely hated the army. Didn't turn out well at all. One thing that I would say characterizes my hobby journey is my annoyance at not being able to paint at a level that I would like to paint. I think everyone looks at pictures in White Dwarfs and from competitions like Golden Demon and things like that, and they try to imitate those paint schemes initially, and it's always a disaster. I think the biggest thing to take away from these types of videos is that it takes years to really hone skills. It's something you really need to work on, and that's very difficult. It's far easier just to put down gray models and to play like that, but it's more rewarding to have painted armies. And I have a ton of work to do. So the first army was Space Marines, Black Templar, and I tried doing edge highlighting and things like that, and again, didn't like it at all. I tried to do some freehand work on their armor. Didn't work. So I sold the army. It's something I've always regretted. I did keep some bits and pieces of it, and I fully intend on having a Black Templar army again at some point. I have a bunch of other Space Marine armies, but Black Templar is one that hasn't really received a whole lot of support since the early 2000s. So one of the earliest techniques that I recall using was inks, and inks are different from the shades or washes today. They're, as a lot of people who have used them will know, that they make things pretty dark. You do very like a light brown, and you put like a heavy brown ink over it, and it really turns almost really dark brown. And so I have a couple of examples from that time period. Here's a little Beastman Gore. It's not bad. Pretty simplistic again. The ink, the way that this guy originally painted was almost like a light orange. And you put that ink on, it turns it really dark, and there's not a whole lot of detail. The horns, especially, just turn like a very dark brown, and they're like a very bright, almost like a kind of like a beige. And a chariot as well. This is Gothor the Beast Lord's chariot. He's since come off. I need to. Well, I guess he was never quite glued on. But there's little Beast Lordy. Again, really mirrors a lot of the details, and I didn't really know how to brighten them back up or anything like that. And it was pretty much base coats and then a layer of ink. And the way I did these bases was just putting down the basic gravel. I didn't like put anything over that or anything, and then I put some green grass. But there's a lot of work to be done on these, and I might go back and kind of spruce them up, modernize them a bit, because I love the models. They're really cool, and I feel like I should give those Beastmen some love. And geez, so again, one of the other things that characterizes me in the hobby is wanting to repeat myself, wanting to always be really good and never quite getting there. And so I get to like points where I'm just frustrated. Like I'll try to paint a model, and I spend a lot of time on them, probably about 2 to 3 hours minimum per rank and file even, and I guess I'm just really slow. But and it doesn't reach the expectation I want, and I have a kind of a habit, I guess, of stopping at that point and kind of moving on. And so I have a ton of half-finished projects over the years. There have been a number of years where I just wasn't that active in the hobby. So, like I said, I painted an army back in '98, and I painted odds and ends over the first 10 or 12 years. And then about 2013, I sat down and I really wanted to get some painting done on my collection. And I started with vampire counts, and I wanted to paint every single model in the army, and I did that. And there's about, I think it's about 500 models in that army. I have a big unit of 90s zombies and stuff like that. And what I was using at that point was the Army Painter scheme, which is, again, a very simple technique where you do basic, the primary colors, again, pretty much just a easy paint scheme, one or two different paints over the model, and then you use like an Army Painter, which is like a wood varnish, and you basically immerse the model in this varnish, and then you leave it to dry. And for something like Undead, it actually works fairly well. It's really dark again, but it works for Undead. So I had a bunch of skeletons I was trying to show you, but they're still kind of boxed away. So this is a vampire. Not too bad. Again, it really does, the varnish really kind of goes into all the cracks and crevices. It does give some degree of shading. This is a necromancer. And again, though, it really makes skin really kind of dark. And again, I tried to do some highlighting and things like that, but I'm such a novice, and again, because I start and stop over several years, I feel like you need to almost relearn the skill. You relearn kind of control the hand and things like that. My goal going forward is to use more traditional techniques. So I'm working on some demonettes, and I got a bunch of these to paint, and I'll be submitting these to the PMP. And these are, they're not amazing, but I'm trying to get to a point where I know it's not, amazing or perfect, but I'm happy with it enough to move forward, because I have so many unpainted models. I've got to get traction. I hate being that guy that just has a ton of stuff, but in some ways it doesn't count because it's just all gray and plastic. So the demonettes that I'm working on and the other units for that demon army, I'm doing base coats. I'm using the shades and washes. And I have the entire all the models and paints in the Games Workshop paint line, so I better be using those. And then I'm trying to then do a little bit of highlighting, because with inks and an army builder, you can do a lot of models fairly quickly, but you're not going to develop the skills. And my long-term goal is always to get to a point where I'm very happy and progressively get better. Now, that takes a lot of work. And so that's something that I'm trying to work on. I'm trying to do it fairly fast-paced. I'm hoping to maybe do some sort of army every month. And so I'm thinking I'm going to try to do about 5 demonettes or regular infantry, maybe every 2 days. That's kind of, or maybe a monster in 2 or 3 days. But I have so many armies to paint. Even if I do an army every month, it will still take about 4 or 5 years to get through everything I own. So that's something that I'm working on. And with the other thing about it is, the base on these is, again, pretty simplistic. And basing I almost consider a completely different skill in and of itself, because it's more like artsy and crafty. Painting is too, but I think you can become a really great painter and not necessarily know what to do with bases. I almost consider it to be a type of skill set on its own. So, I'm making this for YouTube. If you're watching, you probably know of my channel. I've been on YouTube since the beginning of July, and it's been a lot of fun. I think it's something that I'm going to continue to do, and I think that's contributing to why I'm back into the hobby aspect more, and why I really want to do a lot in painting. I joined the PMP, Painters Motivating Painters, a little while back. This will be the first month that I really have a great opportunity to do some submissions. Since I was traveling around in August, I did submit a unit for July. But I plan to do much more, and that's a great resource because Vince and a few other co-hosts, they go through the material at the end of every month, and they critique, but in a positive and encouraging way, right? So far I haven't seen anything in their video where they just say, well, this model looks horrible. They always, even if it's a very basic paint scheme, they always offer some sort of help in which you could increase it just a little bit. And don't be too discouraged. There's a lot of really nice work and some fantastic painters in that group. But I think they're very open to new painters as well, and to people that are willing to try to get content done every month. And traveling around the country, I haven't had an opportunity to really be part of a Warhammer community. So I knew of YouTube beforehand, obviously, music videos and things like that, but I never really looked at it as like an online community. And that's certainly what it is becoming for me. I'm still relatively new, but you start to develop those kind of personal kind of relationships, and it's a really interesting one too, because I correspond with people throughout the United States, in the UK, in France, Australia, Germany, Sweden, and I think that's awesome. It's more like a worldwide community, and if you're going to paint models and things like that, the best thing you can watch is people playing the game or people talking about the game. And so I always have maybe about 10 to 12 hours in my queue of videos to watch, and that's an awesome way to kind of keep you motivated and keep you on track. And so going forward, the goal for me as a hobby journey is just to keep moving forward, try some new techniques, definitely try to get outside of the things I've traditionally done and experiment a bit. Just get models done, but at a sufficient quality that I'm at least somewhat happy with. And not to get too discouraged, and to paint. And also, yeah, it's been a lot. The last few months have been awesome, and I really want to keep moving. So thanks for watching.